Well, hello everyone. Here to show you that the Skype incoming call is to say is you call it, research it is, or is to say is that they're talking about is the lookup. You say the biography, biography. You say however you want to pronounce it is, but so far as Skype, incoming call it is. I would, I of course, got my webcam connected, of course. But anyway, but you see right here is that I got the dial, touchpad is. And with anybody, maybe any senior citizen, say over the age of maybe 50 or 60, 65, it is that more likely they could probably think about is that knowing basically how to work the controls. It is it's like you have right here is the mouse, or it could be what you say is maybe like a touch screen. It is that they have like what you say touch screen, which most computer laptops it is that they would have it to where that they would be like you say a touch screen to where that they would be able to to touch the numbers. You say on the keypad, or there could be you say is like what you call like a transmitter remote where you can actually say you push the buttons. You say, but other than that is knowing about the basic controls right here is like knowing about the with Skype that you could probably think about is like if there's a way that you can have it to where that maybe a way that you can dial a number by analog if most of us can probably remember about say the analog. I can go ahead and use right here as an old watch right here. So a watch is a kind of example of say of an analog is like you have right here is I don't know if it looked kind of like this right here to where that the numbers is like you get right here is 1 2 3 and then of course the star and then of course the pound key I guess would be at about star and the pound I guess will be about on opposite sides it is. But anyway, that other is like what you call is like going to smartwatch. But other than that is that you got right here is like a watch. I can use it right here as an example. I say of analog, an analog telephone it is. And people could probably think about is that with the users, especially if you're going to be using this stuff at home, is to know about for incoming calls it is knowing about with incoming calls about maybe not really the amount of time it takes just to get something working, but on your hand too that knowing about is like that the software may require a software like most like the webcam I have of course requires you say is like the amount of memory space. It's like other than if you were to connect it to say as a USB connector it is, but if you were to connect it to actually have it to like it requires you say a certain amount of memory it is. It's like I think 200 say megabytes or something like that of memory, and then of course some other say access programs it is I think with this I think Service Pack 3 say this and knowing about the RAM RAM speed or something like that. But anyway, but so far as like I'm not really an expert on all this stuff, but on the other hand too that knowing about is like that really people could probably think about that really it's really you would probably even if you worked for a company that used it about almost every day, knowing about any troubleshooting issues it is just knowing about really about how this stuff works it is. And I guess more likely they could probably think about is that at least try to do some time, spend some time doing some type of homework research about knowing about what all you need to have to be able to keep something working and to keep something going it is so far as like system upgrades it is. But talking about with incoming calls though, most of us are probably familiar with like what you call is like the phones I got right here is like you have right there is that the phones that pick up right there. And just knowing about that you pick up the phone and then of course it has you say you got the volume adjustment and stuff like that. But on the other hand too that knowing about is that if you were to call somebody from Skype, this is Skype of course, but in it could be other programs like such as I don't know if there's Excellion or anything like that, any program called Excellion where you can buy minutes from there. You say AT&T Pro or anything like that, or Skype Pro, Premium or anything like that, where you can buy, pay as you go, that's type of stuff. And knowing about is the numbers is sometimes the numbers would appear as like 0063 it is, and just knowing about that you probably don't recognize the numbers for the incoming calls. And a lot of people would probably think about that that yeah, that if you want to answer it, knowing about, really, if there's a way, and I think that there is a, a way that you can maybe look it up, knowing about, for any incoming calls it is, and just knowing about that, yeah, for any incoming calls it is, if you can check out for any further details about that, and more likely that there is a way, which I don't think I would even have enough time to explain. It's like, even if I did know how to look that up, but anyway, but basically what I see right here is got tools and of course with view, but I would probably say that if anything, maybe click on tools or maybe conversion it is, and you see here view all messages. But anyway, that there will be like what you call of course a lot of these options right here would not even be turned on, and I guess until a number is dialed. But for any incoming calls and maybe outgoing calls it is, and just knowing about how it works, is that people will probably think about, I think it's fair to know about who's calling. You say that number before you actually pick it up, because of course it could be maybe say salesperson, scam, whatever it is, that knowing about who it is before you actually pick up the phone. Of course, we probably think about that this is not what you call one of those things that we would see on one of those movies it is, huh? But it's like talk about with Star Trek. It's like talking about, it's like either Star Trek or Back to the Future, whatever it is. But basically, it's like the type of phone technology nowadays is knowing about. It's like besides if it's Google Glass or whatever, knowing about whatever type of phone technology is knowing about really the fact about how much time it takes just to learn it, or the fact about the skills, about how experienced that maybe we are with some of the stuff here. And just knowing about with me that if I can remember right, the very first phone, I don't even remember the name of the model of it, but if I can remember right, the first phone that I had, of course, with that old Verizon phone that I had, and then of course that it was another kind of a phone, and of course right here is like, of course, if anybody's seen it before, I got my webcam right here. It's like brand new webcam it is. Connect that, and then knowing about that, yeah, that you got built-in microphone it is, and people probably thinking about that really, a grandparent or whoever that knowing about, anybody who don't want to mess with any of those computers. Why would they want to mess with that on the other hand too? But anyway, but basically is that it would also be nice to maybe to have like what you call is like maybe like you say I think there is like a directory where you can actually you can actually store, which of course think that I'm keeping an eye on time too. But anyway, but all kinds of things that you can learn about, of course, on Skype it is. You say right here, it's like you got the dial pad right here. But anyway, but basically it's like what I'm talking about, of course, is with incoming calls. Is that if there's going to be a time for where that if there's any incoming calls coming in, that more likely some people might say that just let it go to the voicemail, or maybe click ignore, whatever it is. But the best way, I guess, is knowing about is that if you want to maybe take the time to take a chance of knowing about it, pick up the call, and it could be somebody calling you, trying to reach you on an error, connection it is. It could be an error. It could be a separate connection. Like if most people would, if they would have the wireless service going on, if they were at the airport, I'm thinking that, people who could be calling landline numbers from the airport or whatever, they could be using an error of service connection, and that may result to a different number, a number that's not recognized it is on the caller ID. And more likely that to think about is like knowing about that, yeah, that if you were to work the controls about knowing about the background information and knowing about let it go to the voicemail, or maybe the thing, if you maybe recognize that number, by closely it is, to be able to pick up the phone. But other than that is knowing about that, yeah, that really, if we were to be tested on stuff like this, back in our old school days, more likely you could probably think about my score was about an 85%, and that some people may think about that, you may have to take that test all over again, maybe by next year, because by the time ticking it is. But more likely it would probably be the fact about they're going to maybe have something new, and then they may have Skype at Permobium or anything like that, to where that if you have a computer that may has a built-in webcam, may give you a second webcam it is, and and besides, touch buttons right here that you see that the letters and the numbers they could maybe have something to where that knowing about that, yeah, that something that where you have still the dial tones, or it could be the fact about, yeah, that instead of if I could maybe draw, it's like talking about, it's like run out of time too, but anyway, but they could maybe have like what you call accessory to talk about, is like that, that more likely there will probably be one button alone that you push. It's like talking about, is like that, I can maybe use right here as my mouse cursor right here, but be one button to push at all, and just knowing about that, yeah, have like a little device on the screen to where it would actually be able to read read the mind for whatever that comes to your mind. It's like talking about like a little gadget to where it unlocks a screen, and then a telephone keypad, and just hold your thumb right here, or something like that, and then it'll be able to pull up whatever numbers that you think about. It's talking about, it's like what you call is the super mini. It is the super mini, something that reads the information that comes to your mind. It is, maybe other than write it down, whatever it is, but we could probably think about that. We may experience learning new stuff, along with the old stuff it is, and people probably think about that. You may still use some of the old stuff, if they don't make it anymore or whatever. But on the other hand, too, to knowing about that, yeah, we could probably think about emergency 911 service. That number seems like it's never changed. Even the non-emergency numbers seems like that they never changed. But on the other hand, too, to knowing about if they were to upgrade to something new, then that they may change it to like what you call 00299 or anything like that. It's like if you were to want to call a number or reach an operator, it is. And that's the thing about me. I never had to make an emergency 911 call before, but one of these days I keep thinking about that. If I ever were to be making a phone call, if it's by cell phone or by Skype call or whatever, they could probably think about. It's like what the service it is, and just knowing about, from wherever the call takes place it is, knowing about that, yeah, that not only is like that, if for whatever reason that the call were that serious to where the caller, could not provide a location and then a reason for the calling or whatever, that they would be able to do, so you say trace call it is they would have like that type of source of technology it is. Anyway, you name it, more likely the company would probably have it, and maybe making those thousands of dollars, whatever it is. But anybody could probably think about that, yeah, and if the whole part about the homework assignment really is about knowing about, is like is to have this type of stuff at home, more likely would be, is like what you call the truth of the whole matter, is knowing about if you had to pay a nickel at a payphone or whatever you call it, is just to know that that if you had to go to work or go downtown, go down the street or whatever just to use the phone, just knowing about, I would like to have one of these things I can use at home. Well, here we are using them at home, even the things that we may see on Star Wars or Star Trek, like maybe the glow in the dark tone or whatever you call it. But just knowing about the fact about for the Skype incoming calls, and just knowing about that, hey, this is the type of stuff that maybe that I wanted to have whenever I was young. But on the other hand, too, that knowing about the troubleshooting issues. Oh, why is the troubleshooting issue so difficult, huh? Yeah, why is the troubleshooting issue so difficult? But other than that, it's talking about us for so far as the Skype incoming call and the incoming calls, like for the troubleshooting is talk about as the study of the homework as so far as the Skype incoming calls.